Good morning, everyone. Let's start with a question. When was the last time you felt truly happy, not because of something you bought, not because of a social media like, but because you simply felt at peace, content, and alive in the moment? For many of us, happiness feels like a chase, a moving target that keeps slipping just out of reach. We say things like, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, when I lose 10 pounds, when I finally meet the right person. But the truth is, when happiness depends on conditions, it becomes conditional, and conditional happiness is fragile. Authentic happiness, on the other hand, isn't about what happens to us. It's about what happens within us. It's not a product of luck or luxury, but of daily cultivation, a mindset, a practice, a way of being. Let's begin with an uncomfortable truth. Many of us are living someone else's definition of happiness. From the time we're young, we're told what success looks like: the dream job, the dream house, the perfect relationship, the luxury vacations. We're told that if we can just achieve all those things, happiness will naturally follow. But have you ever noticed how happiness, in this model, always seems to live in the future? It's never here. It's always there. We end up chasing an illusion, running on a treadmill of almost there, only to find that the finish line keeps moving. Here's the problem: when happiness depends on external circumstances, it becomes conditional, and conditional happiness is fragile. It can vanish with a single bad day, a missed opportunity, or someone else's opinion. To cultivate authentic happiness, we have to pause and ask ourselves, whose definition of happiness am I really chasing? Because the truth is, there is no universal formula for joy. What fills one person with excitement might leave another feeling empty. One person finds happiness in adventure and risk. Another finds it in stillness and simplicity. There's no wrong answer, but there is a wrong direction, chasing happiness defined by others. Redefining happiness starts with listening inward instead of outward. It's the courage to turn down the noise of expectations and tune into your own frequency. It's asking deep questions like, what makes me feel most alive? When do I feel most at peace? What kind of life feels true to who I am, not who I'm told to be? When you start exploring those questions honestly, you begin to see that happiness is not a destination. It's a state of alignment when your actions, values, and emotions harmonize. Think about it this way. Imagine your life as a piece of music. Authentic happiness is the moment when all your instruments, your work, relationships, health, purpose play in tune. The melody might change, but the harmony remains. One of the biggest barriers to this harmony is comparison. We compare our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. We think happiness must look like theirs, their career, their body, their bank balance. But comparison blinds us to what's already beautiful in our own journey. True happiness doesn't need validation. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't even need to be understood by everyone. It just needs to feel real to you. So let's redefine happiness not as pleasure, but as purpose. Not as achievement, but as authenticity. It's not about having everything. It's about being everything you are meant to be. Happiness is waking up and knowing that your choices, even your small ones, align with your truth. It's saying no to what drains your energy and yes to what nourishes your soul. It's the quiet satisfaction of being you fully, unapologetically, and presently. When you start living by this new definition, something incredible happens. Life stops feeling like a race. You stop comparing, you stop chasing, and you start creating. Joy begins to flow naturally, not because life is perfect, but because you are present in it. So I invite you to take a moment today to reflect, to redefine, to reclaim your own meaning of happiness. Because the kind of happiness that lasts isn't found in what you achieve. It's found in who you become along the way. And when your definition of happiness comes from your heart, not from the world, it can never be taken from you. Let's take a moment right now, a deep breath in and out. Do you realize that most of us rarely do that consciously? We breathe, but we don't notice. We live, but we don't feel it. We move from one moment to the next, already thinking about what's next, the next task, the next goal, the next notification. And that's the tragedy of modern life. We are surrounded by everything we thought would make us happy, yet we're too distracted to experience it. Presence is the art of being here, not physically because we're all physically here, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It's the practice of meeting this exact moment without judgment or distraction. You see, happiness doesn't hide in grand achievements. It hides in the tiny, unguarded pauses between them, the laughter during a meal, the way sunlight paints your wall in the morning, the sound of rain tapping against your window. But we miss these sacred details because we're always mentally elsewhere. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle and multitasking. We think if we slow down, we'll fall behind. But let me ask you, what's the point of running fast if you're sprinting in the wrong direction? The more we chase the next, the more we disconnect from the now. And that now, this moment is the only place where life actually happens. Practicing presence means bringing your awareness back to this breath, this thought, this heartbeat. It's grounding yourself in what is, instead of being lost in what was or might be. And when you do that, something magical happens. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. Think about this. Have you ever watched a child play? They can spend an hour chasing a butterfly, laughing at bubbles, or staring at clouds. They're not thinking about yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's to-do list. They're simply here. That's why children seem so effortlessly happy. They haven't learned how to abandon the present moment yet. As adults, we need to relearn that art. Try this simple habit. When you eat, just eat. Don't scroll, don't plan, don't rush. Taste the food, smell it, appreciate it. When you walk, just walk. Feel the ground under your feet. Notice the breeze. Hear the rhythm of your steps. The more you anchor yourself in your senses, the more you'll feel alive, because aliveness lives in awareness. Presence doesn't mean ignoring the past or the future, it means not living there. The past is a teacher, not a home. The future is a possibility, not a prison. And yes, presence takes practice. You'll get distracted, you'll forget. But every time you return to now, you strengthen your capacity for peace. It's like training a muscle. The more you bring your attention back, the stronger your inner calm becomes. One of the simplest ways to start is mindfulness, not as a buzzword, but as a way of living. Try setting small reminders throughout your day. A deep breath before you open your phone. A pause before you respond to someone. A few quiet moments before you sleep. Each time you do, you reclaim a piece of your energy from the chaos of distraction and invest it back into awareness. Because the truth is, presence is happiness. When you are fully here, you realize that nothing is missing, that life is happening right now, and it's beautiful even in its imperfection. So, let's stop waiting for someday to feel happy. Let's meet joy where it lives here, in this breath, in this moment, because this quiet, ordinary, fleeting moment is where life begins again. Let me begin with a question. Have you ever scrolled through social media, looked at someone else's life, and suddenly felt like yours wasn't enough? It happens quietly, almost unconsciously. You're feeling fine one moment, maybe even content, and then you see someone else's highlight reel, their vacation, their new job, their seemingly perfect family. Suddenly, your good day feels average. That's the silent trap of comparison. It steals joy in small, invisible ways. Comparison whispers, look at them, they're happier, luckier, more successful. But here's the truth, comparison is a liar. It shows you fragments of someone's story while blinding you to your own. You see, the human mind has a bias. It notices what's missing more than what's present. We are wired to focus on gaps, not gifts. That's where gratitude comes in. Gratitude is the antidote to comparison. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you already have. It transforms your inner dialogue from, I wish I had, to I'm thankful I do. And that one shift from absence to abundance changes everything. I remember a story of a man who was always chasing more money, more recognition, more everything. No matter how much he achieved, happiness stayed just out of reach. One day, an older mentor said to him, "You'll never find peace by counting what's missing. Try counting what's already there." That advice changed his life. He started writing down 3 things he was grateful for every night, small things: a good meal, a kind word, a quiet evening. Slowly, his mind began to rewire itself. He didn't need life to be perfect to feel happy, he just needed to see it clearly. That's the power of gratitude. It doesn't change your circumstances, it changes your perspective. When we choose gratitude over comparison, we stop living life as a competition. Because there will always be someone ahead of you, richer, fitter, more followed, more admired. But happiness isn't a race, it's a realization. And gratitude helps you realize that your journey, with all its ups and downs, is enough. Try this simple practice. Whenever you catch yourself comparing, pause and ask, what can I be grateful for right now? Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's the roof over your head. Maybe it's the fact that you woke up today with another chance to try again. It doesn't have to be big. Gratitude grows best in the soil of small things. You'll start to notice something subtle the more you appreciate, the more life gives you to appreciate. Gratitude isn't magic, it's mindset. It tunes your awareness to abundance, and abundance attracts more of itself. Even science backs this up. Studies show that people who practice daily gratitude experience less stress, better sleep, and deeper joy. Why? Because when you focus on what's right, you stop feeding what's wrong. But let's be honest, gratitude isn't always easy. Some days, life hurts. Some days, the storm is too strong to see any silver lining. On those days, gratitude isn't about pretending everything's fine, it's about finding one small light in the darkness. Maybe it's the friend who stayed, the lesson you learned, the strength you didn't know you had. Gratitude doesn't deny pain, it gives you perspective within it. So, the next time comparison knocks on your door, let gratitude answer instead. Because when you measure life through gratitude, you realize that happiness doesn't come from having more, it comes from seeing more clearly. And in that clarity, you'll find peace. Not the kind that depends on circumstance, but the kind that lives quietly in your heart, whispering, "I have enough. I am enough. This moment is enough." Let's start with a simple truth. No one blooms alone. Every joy, every victory, every healing moment in life is magnified when shared with others. Yet in a world more connected than ever through technology, so many people feel profoundly alone. We live in an age of constant communication, and yet genuine connection has become rare. We text instead of talk, scroll instead of see, and react with emojis instead of emotion. And somewhere along the way, we've mistaken contact for connection. But authentic happiness doesn't grow in isolation. It grows in the spaces between people, in empathy, in laughter, in understanding, in shared silence. When you think about the happiest moments of your life, aren't they almost always connected to someone else? A friend who made you laugh when you were hurting, a family member who believed in you when you didn't, a stranger who offered kindness when you least expected it. Those moments remind us that the heart doesn't need grand gestures, it needs genuine presence. To nurture meaningful connections, we must first show up fully, sincerely, and without pretense. It begins with listening, really listening, not to respond, not to fix, but to understand. In a world full of noise, being truly heard is a form of love. When you listen deeply, you're saying, "You matter, your story matters, your feelings matter." Connection also thrives on vulnerability. We often wear emotional armor because we fear rejection or judgment. But here's the paradox: the more we hide, the more disconnected we feel. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage in its purest form. When you dare to say, "This is me, unfiltered, imperfect, real," you create space for others to do the same. And that's when connection transforms into something sacred. Real connection doesn't require you to have it all together. It just asks that you be authentic. The people meant for you don't need perfection, they need your truth. Another essential part of nurturing meaningful connections is giving, and not just giving things, giving time, attention, and compassion. In a world obsessed with networking, we forget the power of simple kindness. A kind word, a helping hand, an unhurried conversation, these are the building blocks of real relationships. When you give without agenda, you invite trust. When you care without condition, you create belonging. And belonging, that deep sense of being seen, accepted, and valued, is one of humanity's most powerful sources of happiness. But connection doesn't just mean with others, it also means connection with yourself. Because if you are disconnected internally, your external connections will always feel incomplete. When you know yourself, your values, your emotions, your boundaries, you connect with others from a place of strength, not need. You no longer seek people to fill your emptiness. You share your fullness with them. The beauty of nurturing connections is that happiness multiplies when shared. When you lift others, you rise too. When you listen, you learn. When you give, you grow. When you love, you live more deeply. True connection is not about the number of people in your life, it's about the depth of your relationships. You could have hundreds of contacts and still feel lonely, or just a few souls and feel complete. So, reach out, call that friend you've been meaning to, tell your loved ones you appreciate them, smile at a stranger you never know whose darkness your light might touch, because in the end, happiness isn't built in isolation. It's built in the warmth of connection, one conversation, one kindness, one heartbeat at a time. Together is where we heal. Together is where we grow. Together is where happiness becomes real. Let me begin with a thought. Happiness isn't found in doing more, it's found in doing what matters most. So many people spend their lives chasing success, approval, or comfort, only to realize they've climbed the wrong mountain. They reach the top and still feel empty. Why? Because somewhere along the way, they stopped living in alignment with their values. Values are the invisible compass that guides your soul. They are your deepest truths, the principles that define who you are, what you stand for, and what kind of life you want to live. When you honor them, life feels meaningful. When you betray them, even small victories feel hollow. But here's the challenge: the world is noisy. It's full of opinions telling you what you should do, who you should be, and how you should live. And if you're not careful, you start living by default instead of by design. Living aligned with your values means pausing to ask, does this choice reflect who I truly am? Am I living my truth or performing someone else's version of it? That kind of honesty takes courage because alignment often asks you to make uncomfortable decisions. It might mean saying no when everyone expects you to say yes. It might mean walking away from something that looks good but doesn't feel right. But that's the beauty of integrity. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency between what you believe and how you behave. Think of your values as the roots of a tree. You can't always see them, but they hold you steady when life gets rough. When your roots are deep, when you live from your truth, storms can shake you, but they can't break you. And that alignment brings a kind of happiness that no external success can replace the peace of knowing you are living authentically. Let me share a short story. A young woman once told me she felt constantly drained, overwhelmed by her job, her relationships, and her responsibilities. On paper, her life looked great, but inside, she felt disconnected. When she took time to reflect, she realized her core values were creativity, freedom, and contribution. Yet her daily life was filled with routines that stifled all three. She wasn't unhappy because she lacked success. She was unhappy because she lacked alignment. So she made small but powerful changes. She started journaling again, volunteered once a week, and restructured her work to allow more creative freedom. Within months, her energy returned. She wasn't chasing happiness anymore, she was living it. That's the quiet power of alignment. It restores integrity between your soul and your schedule. Living aligned with your values doesn't mean every day will be easy, but it does mean every day will be real. You'll sleep better at night knowing that your actions reflect your truth. When you live from your values, kindness, honesty, courage, compassion, faith, or whatever they are for you, you stop seeking external validation. You no longer need the world to approve because you've already approved of yourself. And that, my friends, is freedom. So ask yourself today, what are my top 3 values? Do my choices reflect them? And if not, what's one small change I can make to realign? Because every time you honor your truth, you strengthen your happiness. Every time you live with integrity, you plant the seeds of inner peace. Authentic happiness isn't about living a flawless life. It's about living a faithful one, faithful to your beliefs, your purpose, and your heart. When your outer life reflects your inner values, you don't just exist, you radiate. That's the kind of happiness that doesn't fade. That's the kind that lasts. So now, we've journeyed together through 5 timeless keys to cultivating authentic happiness, and perhaps you've noticed something beautiful. None of them depend on the world changing. They all begin with you. We started with redefining happiness, because happiness loses its meaning when borrowed from someone else. The moment you stop chasing society's version of joy and start asking, what truly matters to me? You begin to design a life that feels like your own. Then we moved into practicing presence, learning that happiness isn't hidden in tomorrow's plans or yesterday's regrets. It lives quietly in this moment, waiting for you to notice it. When you are fully here, even the ordinary becomes extraordinary. We learned to choose gratitude over comparison, because gratitude shifts your gaze from lack to abundance. It reminds you that happiness isn't about having more, it's about seeing more. It transforms what you have into enough, and enough into joy. We explored nurturing meaningful connections, because no matter how strong or independent we think we are, our hearts are wired for belonging. Life's deepest happiness doesn't come from isolation, it comes from love, kindness, and genuine human connection. And finally, we discovered that to live aligned with your values is to live in truth, to let your choices mirror your beliefs, and your actions reflect your heart. Because when your life is in harmony with your values, peace is no longer something you seek, it's something you become. You see, authentic happiness isn't a treasure buried at the end of a long road. It's not something you earn, buy, or wait for. It's something you cultivate, one mindful moment, one grateful thought, one kind act at a time. It's in how you greet your mornings. It's in how you forgive your past. It's in how you treat yourself when no one is watching. It's in how you make others feel seen, safe, and valued. Happiness, real happiness, is not a destination, it's a daily devotion. And when you start nurturing it from within, you stop chasing life and start living it. So I leave you with this reminder: you don't have to wait for perfect conditions to feel happy. You just have to be present, grateful, connected, and true. Because happiness doesn't come from getting what you want, it grows from appreciating what you have and who you're becoming. So breathe deeply, smile gently, and remember, the happiest life isn't the one that looks perfect, but the one that feels authentic. Thank you